Tonight, we have our senior librarian, Barbara Quek, who will share about what she does and the collections that she's overseeing at the National Library, in particular the magazines from the legal deposit collections. Our senior librarian, Barbara Quek.
In content and services, one of my main tasks, of course, in this advocacy team is to ensure that we get the legal deposit, which is really our published heritage. Yeah, which I think a lot of people may not know about it. And then this actually, we are like the authorized repository, which is actually very important because, it's basically, we keep all these things. Actually, people do ask us about it. They refer to our collections. And sometimes when they do research, they actually come to us. Like, I think when we did SG50, there are some people who ask for publications that may not be available in Li Kong Chen. Because legal deposit will cover materials that are not commercially published or available. Okay, this will be our catalogue that we have recently opened this catalogue to the public in 2015. It was actually part of the SG Jubilee celebrations as well, because we collected at that time was close to more than 1 million items, and they were all residing in our repository. Yeah, so we decided that we want to encourage also research as well as also open up this collection to people so that we know that we have this published heritage with us. Okay, some of these are the inaugural issues that I mentioned. Okay, inaugural issues, I don't know, I find it's quite interesting because I think when you want to launch an issue, you always have great plans. You will tell your users what to expect of the publication and things like that. But it's sad to say that sometimes the publication ceases and then it discontinues because of various challenges. Yeah, so that's a bit tough, Okay, this is a VIP title. Okay, when I first looked at that, I thought it might be that prestige title, that may have changed from this VIP prestige to prestige. They actually say that in this inaugural issue, they want to bring very important persons, but they didn't actually say that they are prominent people, which is quite different from now the prestige magazine that you see. It's usually people, socialites or people in the kind of circle, where the financial circle or whichever area that they are very prominent or outstanding. Yeah, this one is a new directions. It's quite interesting because you see they even put as a manifesto, in the inaugural issue. And they actually cover things on the interesting article, if you can look at it later, is about MNCs, that when it was at the time when we worked a lot with, we had a lot of MNCs and all that. So what they say is that actually they should be partners, when we work with MNCs, we should actually partner them. It's not as though we are, inferior in any way. It's a partnering kind of thing. Okay, then, this one is more on titles. Like I said, titles are quite interesting because sometimes we try guessing, okay, this title, what does it mean or what it show? So I think National Pioneer is quite clear what it is. It's a national kind of publication and it's first, pioneer kind of thing. But I think if you look at it, National Pioneer will never relate it to the Singapore Armed Forces. I think I wouldn't, to be honest, because it's nothing to do with soldiering or national service, Yeah, but of course, over time, because it has sustained itself until now, so people know that it is Pioneer magazine is the Singapore Armed Forces magazine. So sometimes, the name becomes what it is because it sustained and then it continues and people identify with it. And then these are some of the research articles, research journals. These are more substantive content. They are more more substantive articles where people actually use as research. Yeah, so in the Singapore Business, I think they covered this write-up on the MRT, and the title was quite interesting. It's the mini MRT. That there's really no way out. We need to have an MRT to get out of the traffic problem. Then we have others will be the interest type, the sports and things like that. Yeah, so we have the one on Go, which is of course football, and then there's jogging, golf. I think the only one was quite unusual is water ski because we never associate Singapore as a water ski place. So that's quite interesting. So some of these are targeting at different groups. You notice that we actually have teenage publications quite a fair bit at that time as well. So you have things like the joyful student, These days I don't know whether we have joyful students. Probably with all the hot housing, I think they can't be that joyful. Okay, then we have women's magazine, and of course we have the signature one. The Her World was one of the first women's magazine, and it has actually stood the test of time. Of course, it started as a fairly big publication if you look at it, but of course, I guess it's not practical size to carry around. They probably realized it later on, it shrunk. Okay, this one was interesting because they were talking about women teachers. I think there's these guys who say, how can these women teachers expect their students to concentrate when they are so distractingly well dressed? And then so the reply from one of them is that one of these distractingly well dressed teachers, in self-defense, she said, although our main job is to teach, but there's no reason why we should drag around in rags. Yeah, good grooming gives me more confidence when I face my class and the children respond more readily. So it was quite interesting, I thought. Yeah, this one is on the automobile one. One article that was, they also mentioned about this comfort revolution. Because as you know, the air conditions used to be like a status symbol for the wealthy, and then this magazine now reports that it has come to stay. But the thing interesting is it says that the day is not far off when buses and taxis will be completely air-conditioned. I think it took quite a long while before the taxis and buses were air-conditioned compared to cars. Okay, this title, this is a title that I thought was quite interesting because this was published in 1924, 23 or 24, yeah. I think this one, it really talks a lot about the profession of architects, something that what they do. In the foreword, when they launched this magazine, they just want to clarify that architecture is like really art and science, It's like more than just aesthetics, and actually good architecture should really have not just the aesthetic, but it should be very, it should actually be really a good building, in that sense. It has must be soundly constructed. Okay, this one is the food magazine. Actually, this is talking about the because McDonald's is in air conditioned comfort and all that. So how do the hawkers compete with it? So it's quite interesting. It's like the start of your food court kind of thing, where you can actually serve it in this manner. This one is it's a tourism publication, and it actually has a story on the National Theatre, which now we don't have it anymore. But it actually talks about it at that time. Yeah, it's quite interesting. The other part was saying that we actually showcase our collection. So what we do is that we highlight it in our publication journal, our flagship journal, which is Biblo Asia. Yeah, so at that time we actually did one on the entertainment magazines.
I would like to know some more details, in-depth details of the legal deposits requirement. How about the copyright photos approval notes? And even IP important notes on the legal deposit photos and the content, etc.
The titles or the copies are deposited with us, but we do not own the content. Yeah. So if you want to use any of the materials or the photographs from that particular issue or particular book that is in our legal deposit collection, you still have to get the copyright from the publisher.
Just a curious question. You have collected a lot of publications over the past few years. Just exactly how big is this collection?
It's now about 1.3, just slightly over 1.3
million.
Yeah, million items.
Wow.
Of course, 70% of it would be like serials, because serials when you publish, if it's a weekly publication, every issue you're supposed to deposit, publishers are supposed to deposit with us. Yeah, so if it's monthly, that means we have 12 issues a year. Yeah, if it's like weekly, we have 52 issues.
Then how do you, or where do you store this such a huge collection?
Okay, we store it at our Changi warehouse. Yeah, it's in we store them in archival boxes that will sort of preserve it better. It's not just left there.
I'd like to find out more about legal deposit because I just published my first speaking book and I'm not really sure what is legal deposit. So coincidentally, we are available as a family and my kids like to go to the library, and that's why we actually all decided to come down and take a look what is it all about.